The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It is Sunday, the 14th of June, 2026. Welcome to This Week with Mary Holland, President and CEO of Children's Health Defense, and myself, Polly Tommey. Well, Mary, what a week we've had.
What a week, Polly. What a week. Oh my goodness. Fun, a little crazy, but really, really exciting week.
Yeah, so we started off and I went up to stay with Mary and we met other Children's Health Defense people and we had an amazing evening with the most fabulous people, Mary.
We did. Those are my local go-tos, Polly. So we call it the Tri-State Health Freedom Alliance. It's New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And you were the featured guest, and I got to interview you for a change. And, there were parents and there were grandparents and there were advocates and people who were really new to the issues. And you got to tell your story, which was really moving, Polly, and everybody was so grateful that you came. And it was really special. Amy Capobianco Diaz and Sue Bronico are the leaders of that group, and they just do a fantastic job. And there's many other people, of course, Deb and Jerry and lots of other people, Paul, who support them, but they really have taken the lead and just, it's a lot of work, like having RSVPs and renting the venue and making sure there's a microphone and making sure there's a little bit of food and water for the speakers and all those kinds of things. And we're so grateful to all the volunteers around the country who do that on a regular basis and make the movement move forward.
It was wonderful, and there were little British coasters just there for me to put my cup on gluten-free cookies, and somebody gave me a beautiful little pot of peppermint oil for traveling, peppermint and orange, and I used it all on my journey all the way, and the whole plane on the way back to Austin smelt of peppermint and orange. So thank you.
That's wonderful.
It was a really lovely, lovely time. All right, let's get on with the first article, and it's you, Mary. Mary Holland, humanity cannot afford to forget the dire toll that COVID took upon us all. And this was you, Mary, speaking at Children's Health Defense first Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. And what a day that was.
What a day it was, Polly. We had a kind of a smaller breakfast at the new Maha Center in Washington, D.C. That's beautiful. It gave us all a chance to reconnect and talk about things. But then we moved over to the Senate Visitor Center, and we were hosted by Senator Ron Johnson. And we had Senator Johnson, we had Senator Rand Paul, we had Representative Paul Gosar, we had Surgeon General Joe Latipo from Florida. We had a gentleman who's now the Maha officer of Steak and Shake. I'm not sure which one it is. We had Noah Syndergaard, who's a major league baseball player, retired baseball player, talking about his interest in wireless radiation issues and how serious they are. We had our attorney, who you all know, Scott McCullough, speak. And so honestly, I'm so glad that we published this article, because I really didn't get the chance to give much of a speech because we were overtime by that part. Oh, and Rob Schneider, how could I leave out? Comedian Rob Schneider was our MC, and he was just fantastic. So it was an amazing day. My article really just talks about the fact that you can't give major corporations alleged liability protection without that turning into impunity. They cannot be punished at this point. They're so strong. There's so much money behind them. And that's really what we have to turn around. They just extract wealth, these public-private partnerships. In the old days, that was explicitly called fascism. They're out of control, Polly. Pfizer is out of control. Moderna is out of control. They're not being disciplined by our captured agencies. Even with Bobby Kennedy there, it's not enough. We've got to change the laws. And the great thing about being there is we actually do have friends in Congress now who are as committed as we are to changing the laws, exposing the corruption that's there, and then changing things, because it's got to be changed. And of course, at the night, this culminated, we took this incredible report that Ron Johnson has done in the Senate. We took it over to critical committees in the House of Representatives saying, could you take this further? We need more support for the great work that Senator Ron Johnson is doing. So that was fun. But then we had this incredible screening in the Congressional Visitor Center in this beautiful theater of Duty to Disobey, and then a roundtable discussion with many of the people in the film. And you led that, Polly, and it was really heartwarming to hear Senator Johnson and a representative of Secretary of War Hegseth, all of them saying what an excellent movie it is and how important it is.
I think that was really moving for me, that someone from the Department of War was there saying, we're going to do something about this. So we're going to hold them accountable to that.
We are going to hold them accountable. And I saw him speaking with Senator Johnson. And so I do believe that it pushed the ball forward a bit, Polly.
Yeah, and it was very moving to see so many military people there in the audience as well. It meant so much to them. So I'm so glad that we did this. And to you out there, please do get your tickets for the 30th of 2026. Those theatres are locked in now. There's 130, I think over 130 theatres. Go to dutytodisobeyfilm.com and book your tickets. There's still tickets, you can still go. And so this is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, and you really don't want to miss it. It really is it's a powerful film. It's a whole new angle on what happened during COVID. It's a whole new angle on medical coercion and vaccines. And I think it will open eyes in a way that so many other fantastic films just didn't reach people. I think this one will.
Yeah, I agree. It was amazing. And Lou there just telling us that it is actually, Mary, Steak and Shake.
Thank you, Steak and Shake. You know, they've changed to using beef tallow instead of using low quality seed oils for their fried foods. And this is a gentleman, Michael Bowes, who had been an advisor to Secretary Kennedy at HHS, who moved over to do this. And he's had a history in the restaurant business. It was really exciting to hear from him at our gathering, and I'm hoping we'll have him on CHD TV, Polly, to talk about the work he's doing, because that is when it really kind of the rubber meets the road, right? Like you actually get into the commercial world, not just sort of proclamations, but like how it changes businesses, how it changes lives.
And to all of those that came up to Mary and I and said they watch this show every week, thank you. It was lovely to meet some of our viewers. I really enjoyed that. Well, the next article is about Rob Schneider. So let's talk about him for a second. It's Henrik Carlson that's written this article. Your Children Are Your Wealth. It's comedian Rob Schneider headlining the first Children's Health Defense Advocacy Day. And I have to say, he works so hard for us from beginning to end. And he had his beautiful children there as well. It was wonderful to see him.
It was great. It was great. He came with his children. There were lots of children there, Polly. That was one of the real highlights for me. There were probably at least 10 kids from about age 12 down to age 2, 3. And that was just wonderful. But yeah, Rob Schneider led us. He was funny. He was insightful. It was a great day. It was a great day, and we're going to do it again. That was just the inaugural Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill, and we are absolutely doing that again.
And we were live, for those that watched, we were live the other day, and he just crashed on in and came live with us on CHD TV. So yes, he's a huge friend to all of us, actually, and very much behind us in everything that we're doing. So thank you to Rob Schneider for standing by us. All right, let's move on to Jill Erzan. COVID mRNA vaccines should be pulled off the market, oncologist says. There is no way you can control this technology, and its use for future vaccines should be banned. And the COVID one stopped right now. This is Dr. Angus Dalgleish. He told the US lawmakers during a June 3rd Senate hearing. Dalgleish discussed the hearing and his personal observations about cancer patients who received the COVID-19 vaccine during an interview with John Campbell. So I'm glad we're keeping this conversation going.
Absolutely. Angus Dalgleish spoke at the last Senator Ron Johnson hearing about the plausible mechanisms whereby these COVID shots are causing turbo cancer. We also, I want to say, Polly, at our Advocacy Day, we are calling for the COVID shots to be pulled off the market. They have caused so much death, destruction, disability, disease. It's outrageous that they're still on the market. Polly, I'm sad to say that I just learned on Thursday evening that HHS has just committed more funding to Pfizer for more mRNA vaccines. So this is really horrific. We have got to stand strong and call for the end of this. It's these shots cannot, as Dr. Dalgleish has pointed out, they just they can't be controlled. This mRNA technology is not safe yet for human use. Full stop.
It's beyond understanding why HHS would do that. We know that.
Polly, it just shows us, we know that Secretary Kennedy is against this technology as it is in its use today. And it just shows us the strength of what we're up against. This is fascism. This is public-private partnerships where the private partners have an incredible level of control over what happens in the public sphere. It's very real. It's very disturbing.
Very disturbing. Okay, Michael Nevadakis in The Defender. People will be heard. Canada launches inquiry into COVID vaccine injuries. Dean Allison, a Conservative member of the Canadian Parliament, announced the inquiry and called on the public to share their vaccine injury stories. Allison said that the country's previous citizens' inquiry performed valuable work in documenting the experiences of ordinary Canadians, but lacked broader participation from legislators, governments, public health officials, and other institutions. So this is amazing from Canada, because Canada have been in trouble in this area for a long time. But to the people in Canada, please do put in your vaccine injury stories. You will shift this.
It is. It's so exciting that this is happening in Canada. The website is covidtestimony.com, covidtestimony.com. And the inquiry, this official government inquiry, will be September 8th through 11th. And it's fantastic that it's happening in Canada. That is a real sign that times are changing. Because Canada was so repressive in its lockdowns and forcing people to take the shots.
Okay, Suzanne Burdick, the Department of Justice throws support behind college football coach fired over COVID vaccine mandate. A federal appeals court heard arguments in a case brought by former Washington State University, that's known as WSU, football coach Nick Rolovich, who alleges WSU illegally fired him after he requested a religious exemption from the state's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. An attorney for the DOJ told the court that the government became involved in Rolovich's case to enforce title of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin.
Polly, this is a really exciting case. So when the Department of Justice steps into a case, it shifts the territory, it shifts the landscape. So Rolovich, and this is such an important case from my perspective, because it's so much of what happens with parents who are asserting religious exemptions for their children. So the committee at the WSO, at WSU, at the university, the blinded committee who didn't know who he was, granted his religious exemption, but then higher ups reversed that grant and said, no, he's tarnishing the image of WSU, because there was a very strict mandate in the state of Washington. And so they overturned it. As it turns out, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, now head of the National Institutes of Health, put in a letter in the first case saying he presented absolutely no risk to anybody. This was a reasonable religious accommodation. It didn't really cause undue hardship to the university, which is the legal standard. So that now that the Department of Justice has stepped in, it's more likely to be reversed in Rolovich's favor. This has cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to litigate it to this point. And what's so interesting and so important for us, Polly, is the state is saying, no, we didn't reject his religious exemption because of his religious beliefs. We weren't targeting him as a Catholic and his belief in things related to aborted fetal cell lines. We were rejecting him because his beliefs were secular. He was just saying that this, in his distorted view, the science supported him not doing it. And this happens to parents all the time. It's like, oh, is it a religious belief or is it a secular belief? It's your misunderstanding of science. And so that's at the heart of this case. And he has a very strong record saying he consulted with a priest, he consulted with his bishop, he has strong religious convictions, and this is both secular and religious, and that's rational, that's reasonable. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think he's going to win, especially, Polly, because it turns out that the university approved 97% of requests for religious exemptions. So they really were discriminating against him. And he really did have religious convictions. So this is an exciting case. We will definitely follow it.
Okay, Suzanne Burdick here. 10 ex-employees sue hospital over COVID vaccine mandate, alleging civil rights discrimination. Mercy Hospital Springfield violated 10 former employees' civil rights when it denied or granted limited religious accommodations from the hospital's COVID-19 vaccine mandate, according to a federal lawsuit filed on May the 29th. The suit also alleges the hospital retaliated against the workers for seeking accommodations from the vaccine.
Well, I'm so happy to see people in hospitals suing, Polly, because the hospitals were the worst. And as we know, that led to some of the discrimination against the unvaccinated that was so horrendous that we showed in Vax 3. Now that the panic around COVID is gone, courts are acting more rationally, and it's good news.
Okay, Michael Neverdakis here. Epic scandal. Bill Gates donated hundreds of millions to NIH to influence research priorities that benefited his foundation. According to investigative reporter Paul Thacker, the Gates Foundation has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to NIH in the last 25 years, allowing the billionaire to shape the direction of the country's health strategy in ways that have benefited his own priorities and pet causes while polishing his image as a global do-gooder.
So this was an article originally written in the Disinformation Chronicle by our friend Paul Thacker, who's done phenomenal investigative reporting. And he previously served on the committee that Senator Grassley chaired about investigating the medical system. So he's interviewing a whistleblower, Polly, who's anonymous here. But that whistleblower, who has worked within NIH for many, many years, said, there is a complete merging of the Gates Foundation and NIH. He says it is a cartel of the Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, and the National Institutes of Health, and that 57% of global research and development in the healthcare space is provided by the Gates Foundation and NIH. So nobody can really object to the Gates Foundation or NIH because then they will get no money. Their careers are over. And one of the things that this article mentioned, Polly, so the way that the Gates Foundation essentially controlled or merged with NIH was through a foundation for the National Institute of Health, set up, I guess, 25 years ago. And guess who's the head of that foundation today, Polly? You'll never guess.
I can't imagine.
Julie Gerberding, our former friend, the head of the CDC, who went to head Merck vaccines. So yes, it is a cartel, and it is astonishing that these people are talking about our health. It is appalling, frankly. And we are not going to stop anytime soon, Polly. There's so much work to be done.
We're taking it back into our own hands.
Yes, we are.
Brenda Belletti, Vigilante Science, how anonymous critics are trying to silence peer-reviewed vaccine research. In April, the research integrity team at Sage Journals notified the authors of a peer-reviewed study comparing health outcomes between vaccinated and unvaccinated children that the journal was investigating complaints about the research. Critics say it's part of a coordinated campaign fueled in part by anonymous posters on PubPeer to discredit researchers who challenge mainstream vaccine science. Well, that's been going on a long time.
Been going on a long time, Polly, but as our colleague Brian Hooker said, this is sort of a Hail Mary pass, that they know that they're losing ground, but this is their attempt to inflict as much damage as possible. It's so important that these articles not be retracted, Polly, because these are articles that have stood the test of time for many years in unvaccinated children, comparing their health outcomes. And it's so important because I think what they're trying to do right now is to get rid of these articles that do what should have been done from the get-go, which is compare outcomes for people who are vaccinated and unvaccinated. They won't be successful in any meaningful way, I don't believe, but it is this real effort, this sort of last-ditch effort to get rid of this science and then suppress any science that would do this work to compare vaccinated to unvaccinated outcomes, which is, of course, the most meaningful science you could do about vaccines.
Suzanne Burdick, under pressure. Michigan makes it easier to opt out of vaccine tracking. In the latest development in efforts to get Michigan's health department to stop adding a thick layer of bureaucratic red tape, that makes it difficult for families to opt out of vaccines and vaccination tracking. The department will now give parents a form that clearly explains what the tracking system is and that they have the right to opt out.
So many states, Polly, obscure the fact that parents have an absolute right to opt out with a religious exemption or, if necessary, a medical exemption. And there's this what they call the Michigan RFK Jr., Dr. Remington Nevin, an epidemiologist who is really helping Michigan to do the right thing. And Jeremy Hammond is mentioned in this article, friend to CHD, living in Michigan with an unvaccinated child, and they're just forcing the state to observe the law. And that's as it should be.
All right, Dr. Brandon Rhymes here. This is a guest editorial. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the silver lining in the Trump administration. An apolitical immunologist speaks out. From my perspective, although he may seem radical, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s opinions and recommendations for broad changes in health science policy are not new at all. They're quite solidly based on statistical thinking and have been part of international internal debates in public health for many decades and a century for infectious disease.
Yeah, this is a great editorial. And this gentleman who wrote it, Dr. Rains, served at NIAID for several years. So he's very mainstream immunology. And he points to a mentor of his, Dr. Erwin Brose, who wrote about all these things that Bobby's writing about, basically Kennedy's writing about or speaking about. And that is that the radiation, the chemical pollution, these have been the drivers of chronic disease, not sort of genetics, not things that are inexplicable. It's very explicable, but industry doesn't like it. And so that information's been suppressed for a really long time.
Okay, Stat News here reporting OBGYN Association deviating from CDC guidance, issuing its own vaccine recommendations. They're recommending 4 vaccines be routinely administered during pregnancy, with several others under certain circumstances. So they're recommending the flu, COVID-19, Tdap, and RSV. But for certain groups, and we're not clear what those certain groups are, they also recommend a pneumococcal, a meningococcal, a hepatitis A, and a hepatitis B.
Polly, it just pains me to read this. And even worse than that, Polly, they say that you could administer the COVID shot in any trimester. I mean, there is good science that shows that early on it will just result in a miscarriage. This is so grotesque to me. I'm sorry. It really it's horrible.
Beyond understanding. It's beyond, there's something
Yeah,
very
this is capture beyond capture. This is just serving pharma as if it were a god, because babies will be sacrificed because of these recommendations. And not to say that I'm very happy about the CDC recommendations either of Tdap and RSV. The RSV vaccine, as we know, is extremely problematic. It is causing injuries and deaths as well.
as is the Tdap. Well, this is very sad news for Children's Health Defence here. It's about Warner Mendenhall. He gave so many of us the wings to fight. Health Freedom Movement mourns the death of Warner Mendenhall. Warner Mendenhall, an Ohio attorney who became a leading legal opponent of COVID-19 vaccine mandates while also representing whistleblowers and exposing fraud. He sadly died June the 8th. Aged just 64, he advocated for the outcast, the underdog, the ordinary person, and never blinked at the power of those he went up against, said attorney Robert Barnes. So really, really very sad to hear that. What a lovely man he was.
So sad, Polly. Such a huge loss. He was such a good human being, and he was such a good lawyer, and he cared so much about people. And as Robert Barnes, another attorney we've worked at, like he would just show up with boundless energy and laughter and bring people together in just a unique way. It's a huge loss. It's really sad. It's a beautiful article that Jill Erzin wrote, quoting many of the people who loved and worked with him. And it's a huge loss.
And we at CHD TV do have the pleasure of interviewing him a few years ago when we were making VAX 3, and we will be playing that full interview shortly on CHD TV for everyone to see. What an amazing man.
Yeah, I'm so sorry he's gone.
Yeah, me too. Okay, right. US Right to Know here. Childhood leukemia and brain tumors are more common in areas of high pesticide use. Using pesticides at home, having parents who work with pesticides, and living near farmland were the exposures most often linked to childhood leukemia and brain tumors. Studies found that children with these pesticide exposures were nearly twice as likely to develop cancer, and in some cases more than 3 times as likely, depending on the type, timing, and amount of exposure. And I'm so glad we're pushing this pesticide in the Defender, because you think you move to the country to be in a farm and have your children grow up in this wonderful lifestyle. In fact, according to this article, we may be putting them in danger around pesticides.
Pesticides are intended to kill living, living things, and anything that's living has some resonance with us. They say that the highest rates of pediatric cancer are in Nebraska and Iowa, 2 states that have a lot of agriculture. So the US is really behind other developed countries in this, Polly. The European Union has much more stringent regulations around pesticide use, glyphosate use in particular. It's discouraging. I think we all love the fruits of capitalism, but we have to understand that, like any tool, there are benefits and there are hazards. And in many areas, like pesticides, like vaccines, like medicines in general, like we just need a much better balance than we have in the United States.
Yes, we do. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s push to remove synthetic dyes hinges on big food cooperation, and some brands are holding out. So in April 2025, the US Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the FDA set a goal to remove synthetic food dyes from the US food supply by the end of 2026. Critics say the effort relies on voluntary compliance and backs enforcement mechanisms. If major brands opt out, then what we have is not a phase out. It's a public relations exercise with no enforceable finish line, one policy expert said.
I take a different view on this, Polly. What every kind of effective policy does is you first try to get voluntary compliance. Those people then set the standard, they set the example, it can be done. And then if and when necessary, you use compulsion. Frankly, that's what they did during COVID, right? They first tried to induce everybody to come in, and only when they saw that people weren't coming in did they try to enact mandates. I think that what Kennedy's doing is bringing on some of the big corporations like General Mills, and they're showing the smaller companies, if General Mills can do it, you can do it. So I actually think that voluntary promises, of course, they're not enough, but I do think it's a valuable starting point to sort of get the ball rolling more easily. So getting red, yellow, blue, green dyes, synthetic dyes out of food is a very worthwhile endeavor, because some people, as we know, Polly, especially children, can literally go crazy when they come into contact with one of these synthetic chemicals.
Yeah, and from my point of view here, adults with autism, any of those dyes, just behavior changes are unbelievable. So yeah. All right, well, this is an article that I had to put into our show this week, because I wonder if our viewers can enlighten me, because I've studied and tried to understand this, and I cannot, for the life of me, Mary, understand it. It's in the Standard, it's in the UK. So Sainsbury's, which is a huge supermarket in the UK, is going to stop selling brown eggs in major sustainability push. So the UK's second biggest supermarket said white eggs have a 12.7% lower carbon footprint than brown eggs. White feathered hens typically live longer, eat less food, and lay eggs for longer, cutting carbon emission by over 12% compared to hens that lay brown eggs. Come on. Now look, seriously, I can't believe that people believe this, and I've been looking it up, and it actually says that brown egg laying chickens are highly sought after for their abundant egg production and calm nature. I don't know if you can enlighten me, but you can't get rid of the brown eggs. What happens to all the hens that lay the brown eggs? The beautiful hens, and we're chicken farmers here, and I'm very upset about this because it doesn't make sense.
Well, it only makes sense, Polly, if your objective is to make the price of eggs go higher and to reduce the egg supply. And in that case, it makes lots of sense. And that's what we've seen in the United States. The price in a store for a dozen eggs has gone up from, $1 to over $10. When I get my organic eggs, they're unbelievably expensive. And if you then get rid of brown eggs, they'll just go, the price of white eggs will just be higher. I don't think it's about the 12.7% carbon footprint,
Of course
but
it's
you know,
not.
reduction. Clearly, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Chicken is a
And
chicken.
12.7, yeah, and 12.7%. I mean, like there's a decimal to make it seem like it's specific. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's like a margin of error. It's that there's a subtext there, and I think it probably is chicken racism we're hearing from Lou. Exactly, chicken racism. That's it.
White
It's
eggs and no brown eggs? I don't think so.
it's crazy.
Yeah, something's well off there. All right, I wanted to end on something really lovely from the Autism Trust, a charity in England that builds sustainable futures for adults with autism. It's headed up by Mo Wilson, who has a son on the spectrum. And they have worked so hard, Mary. They're such an amazing group of people. And they have managed to create this space in Camberley Station, a little train station in England, and they've taken a part of it and they are selling coffee, and they've got a training centre there. So in the train station, they're training and they're making crafts, and then they take them over to this little space and they're selling. So if you're in England, if you're in Camberley train station, go over to the Autism Trust and support those wonderful adults with autism making your coffee and their crafts. It's a wonderful.
It's wonderful. And Polly, it's called Polly's Place. And I have a feeling that that's a Polly we know. So it's very wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Kudos to you.
I didn't ever call it Polly's Place, by the way. They did that for me. It was very sweet of them. But yes,
Very
so
sweet.
just to say to them, well done. And they're
Well
all looking for volunteers as well. So if you can help volunteer at the Autism Trust UK in England, then they'd be so grateful. They're just a wonderful bunch of human beings creating wonderful futures for our boys. So very grateful to them. So I thought that would be a nice uplifting ending for this show. So anyway, lots of exciting things happening at Children's Health Defence in all departments, and we're very grateful to you all for your support and yeah, just massive support from you all. So thank you so much. I'm very excited, Mary, are we not, for Duty to Disobey.
We are so excited. I think I've mentioned, but I'm actually not going to be home then. So I'm not going to be in New York City or in Rockland or Westchester. I'm going to be in Rochester. So I have bought many tickets to the Rochester Theater, and will really be happy to meet with colleagues and friends there.
And I will be here in the Cedar Park one with many members of Children's Health Defence there as well. And the filmmakers will be there at the Cedar Park
wow.
in Austin one. So we're very excited about that. So yes, and after the 30th, we'll love to hear from you on what you thought about the film and maybe some pictures of you all together. So it's a great reunion on the 30th of the military, our viewers, our people. Children's Health Defence, very much looking forward to it. dutytodisobeyfilm.com. All right, well, from Mary and I, pray big, stand firm, never settle. We'll be back tomorrow on CHD TV. But thank you all for listening and being there for us.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Polly.
I'm Claire Dooley. You're watching CHD TV, and this is the Geoengineering Report, where we identify the threat in the skies. So today, I'm going to be joined by Leslie Manookian, who is the founder and president of Health Freedom Defense Fund. Leslie, thank you for joining us.
So great to be with you, Claire. Thanks for having me. Awareness about this has become much, much deeper and broader across the country in recent years. If you mentioned weather modification 10 years ago, people would have laughed at you and said, where's your tinfoil hat? And today, most people say, yeah, there's something going on. What is it? And it's because there's way more coverage. There's been, the internet has made information accessible. So there have been experts who've testified about technology that's available in front of Congress, in front of these major international bodies. And if you go back to the 1950s and 60s, it's even been tried, right? So in Britain, they actually ran an operation where they made it rain an excessive amount, and a bunch of people died.
In history, there is a chilling example of a flood that may have been accidentally triggered with a weather weapon. August 15th, 1952, near the small town of Lynmouth, England, a massive rainstorm strikes. The river swells. Scores die.
It's estimated that 250 times as much rain fell in a period of 24 hours as normally fell in the entire month.
The East Lynn and West Lynn rivers flood their banks. According to the BBC, 90 million tons of water sweep down into the town of Lynmouth.
35 people were killed.
Bodies wash out to sea and are never found. Trees are uprooted, forming dams behind bridges, creating walls of water that carry huge boulders into the village, destroying shops, hotels, and homes. Was this just a freak act of nature? The prevailing theory is that it may have been a British military experiment gone bad, as they had been known to be conducting cloud seeding tests around that same time.
The British military would be experimenting with cloud seeding for the same reason as any government or military, because if you can control the weather, if you can make it rain, you can have a profound effect on the battlefield. Some people reported seeing aircraft undertaking strange maneuvers, and it subsequently emerged that there was an experiment codenamed Operation Cumulus, which was indeed an attempt at weather modification. Interestingly, many of the documents relating to Operation Cumulus have disappeared and are not available from the National Archives.
The United States deployed weather modification in the Vietnam War.
The Air Force employed a groundbreaking military directive called Project Popeye.
Project Popeye was a weather modification program that involved cloud seeding, and the idea was to produce or exaggerate the monsoon rains that are traditional in that region.
Experiments are carried out beforehand with a military aircraft dropping silver iodide crystals in clouds over a strip of the Laos Panhandle, east of the Belovans Plateau in the Mekong River Valley. 50 cloud seeding runs are conducted. 82% of the clouds seeded produce rain within a brief period.
So Project Popeye then became Operation Popeye. It became a proper military program during the Vietnam War.
LBJ set up a program and funded that program. They basically made it rain, deluge. They extended the monsoon season in order to wash out the Ho Chi Minh Trail and to impair the ability of the Vietnamese to basically fight us. And so this is not conspiracy theory, right? And this is, the internet has made this all much more accessible. And so people are starting to realize, wow, there is this. And then on top of that, there are all these patents that have been filed. And so there is something going on. The question is, what is it? And that's what I think we should unpack, Claire.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a couple of different guests on our show in the past. Dane Wigington has talked in depth about, what's happened during Operation Popeye. And I think he even mentioned, you can go back and look at those episodes, that, there were even some worldwide treaties that were signed after that, agreeing that countries weren't going to do these things as an act of war, but kind of excluding and leaving like a lot of loopholes for, people to do, or entities to do whatever they want.
In 1977, the US became a signatory to the Environmental Modification Convention Treaty, an international accord that prohibited the use of weather modification for malicious purposes.
I'm Chuck Cleveland.
And tell us what you do.
I'm a health educator.
You're a health educator.
Yes.
And you want to talk about your intervention for COVID, your protocol?
Yes.
Okay, tell us.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And remember, viewers listening, Children's Health Defence does not give out medical advice, so this is just the opinions of our guests.
Yeah. I was fortunate to be in the Navy as a dental technician for about 4 years, and developed a real interest in medical science. Mm-hmm. And after I got out of the Navy, I worked as a surgical technician for a while, and eventually I got into health education. Was very fortunate to see some seminars on how to help the community reversing diabetes, losing weight, stop smoking programs. So when the coronavirus came, it took us all by surprise, as you know, and I thought about an experience that we'd had. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and you may remember the famous Battle Creek Sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan, and John Harvey Kellogg days, cornflakes and all that. Years ago, our church developed a hydrotherapy approach using water treatments, and hot fomentations on the chest, especially very effective for respiratory illnesses. And when coronavirus hit, it was pretty upsetting to all of us. I remember in our church, there was, can't hug anymore, social distancing, all those things changed everything. We adjusted, we went to 2 services, the masked group and the unmasked group, and we went through all those kinds of things trying to make it work, and we were in a learning curve like everyone.
So you had masked service and then an unmasked service?
Yeah, that's right.
And which was bigger?
The unmasked for a while.
Okay, so more people were not having any of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So our church health committee got together. We have a nutritionist and several of us with masters in public health, nurses, and we looked back up how our church responded to the 1918 pandemic with the H1N1. In our country, there were 700,000 people died, and 50 million people around the world. So this is pretty serious stuff. We had an interesting experience personally through using the Battle Creek sanitarium methods of hydrotherapy. This is back in the 1918s. I wasn't there, and but we recorded. So in the Army had a very effective approach. They used the best methods they had, medical treatments, and they were able to save and prevent about 6.7% success in preventing death. But in using our methods, we were in the sanitarium, we had about a death rate of about 1.3%, which was amazing. We had one of our schools back then that had a boarding school, and 90 of the young people got the H1N1 virus, and not one of them, through using hydrotherapy, had ever got pneumonia, and not one of them died. So we knew that history, and we decided we would use that approach and offer that to our church members or anyone in the community that we could help. And so we put together, now when I talk about hydrotherapy, maybe I can just explain briefly. This is taking like hot packs, compresses. You could use like a bath towel and put it in very hot water or steam it, wring it out so it's moist, and put that on the chest as a compress, and repeat that with maybe in between every 5 minutes some cold friction to constrict the blood vessels and increase the circulation in that area back with the hot. And that method we used very successfully. So coronavirus began to spread, and different church members got that. We used a Russian steam bath. We were able to get just a little portable kind, and we distributed those to our church members. And we encouraged them to be sure to be very faithful in taking their vitamin D. We use vitamin D on different levels, D3 and K2 with it. We used, of course, vitamin C. We used NAC, quercetin, and zinc. That was our basic approach, which, as you know, Peter McCullough had developed as well. And that was very helpful. And then we started using the hydrotherapy treatments. And I remember 2 experiences I could share with you. As we would go out to our members, we developed actually 4 geographical areas in our community here in Tennessee where we could serve our church members. And if they got in trouble, we brought them the steam tent and the equipment and some vitamins and so forth. And I remember taking some to a couple of our members, and they tried it for about one time, but because they didn't feel very well, they didn't feel like continuing, they stopped their treatments. And within 3 or 4 days, they were in the hospital. And one man was in the hospital for, eventually, because of breathing problems, he was put on a ventilator. And he was on that ventilator for 6 weeks in a life and death situation. And kind of reminds me of our church praying for Peter when he was imprisoned, and all of a sudden he was released. We were amazed. I wondered if this brother would ever pull through, and he did. He was one of the few exceptions, and then and he's doing well today, and we're very, very grateful for that. But his hesitancy almost cost him his life. I had another man that got COVID, and I got COVID, and my wife got COVID. And just before that time, about that time, I had taken him a steam tent and went over the protocol. We actually created a little booklet that we put together on how to deal with the coronavirus and what vitamins we were recommending and how to give yourself the treatments. And this man was a nurse. He wasn't overweight. He was in his mid-70s. And he got the equipment, and 3 days later he called me and he says, "Chuck, I feel I'm not doing well." And I said, "Well, how often are you doing the treatments?" He says, "I didn't feel like it." I said, "Oh no." I said, I felt so. I said, "I am as sick as a dog myself, but I'm taking the treatments and, I'm getting better." But I said, "I can't come help you right now. I'm out." And the problem is too that because coronavirus was so scary for most people, it was not easy to find someone that would want to go to someone else's home. And so this man, within probably a day or two later, was in the hospital, and we lost him. He didn't make it. And it was just so disappointing. So we equipped, and people paid attention, and from then on, everyone that we were able to assist with our equipment, not one of them ended up in the hospital, not one of them died. And that was very encouraging to us to see that really happen.
How many of these people, I mean, obviously you can't give out medical stuff, but how many of them had the actual COVID shot?
Oh, you mean in general? The ones that
sort of like, did most of your church succumb to having that shot?
I would say more than half of the folks would have taken the vaccination. Yeah,
and the guy that went on the vent that you prayed for that came out, had he taken the shot, do you know?
I think he did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had taken it.
That's why he survived as well.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah,
interesting,
right.
Because anyway. So
it was a miracle, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it was a praying miracle because, I mean, of course it didn't help everybody, but in his case it just seemed to be exceptional. And I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
Now, this sort of reminds me, and I mean, I don't really know in depth your therapy, but it reminds me of when I was growing up and everything was steamy baths, steamy showers, have steamy, well, not showers, we lived in England and didn't have a shower, but everything was inhale over steamy things, compressed, and it's like going back to the old days.
It is, and it worked then, and it worked, well, look at 1918, that was some of the old days, and there was no vaccination at that time, and they used a similar protocol. They used isolation, quarantine, distancing, stay home, and kind of reminds us of what we're going through here. But what we would do, we'd start off with this little steam tent, and you could buy them for $100 from Amazon back then, and you just sit in that, like you said, and you steam. And we would recommend starting out as soon as you knew you had the COVID, or you had been tested and you're waiting for results. Don't wait. You need to get early intervention is the key. You remember what you heard, people say, well, stay home until your lips turn blue and then come to the hospital type of thing. That's why so many people died. But if you would do early intervention, we would get them to use the steam bath, usually for the first couple of days, 2 steam baths a day. And then, like you say, you could duck your head down in there, a little eucalyptus oil in the...
Not too much because it burns your eyes.
Yeah,
being there.
but just a couple of drops in the steamer, and then breathe that in. That we would do for the first couple of days, and then we would switch to treating the chest directly because it is a respiratory.
Because you need to loosen it up and get that stuff out.
That's
that
right.
old saying, better out than in.
Yeah, that's right.
There for a reason.
Yeah.
Now, what about RSV? Because we have all these young mothers panicking because of the ridiculous propaganda we have out there about if your baby can't, has this RSV, rush it to hospital, and of course prevents death.
Yeah.
So, do you think this steamy approach that you're talking about will work for the babies and for the RSV patients?
Well, I'm not a physician. I'm a health educator.
Nobody's giving medical advice out here. Right.
So, if it was my baby, I would be using it. I would just say that for sure. Yeah, and they may not. You could. There's lots of ways to do steaming. You could just put even an umbrella or a towel around or something and do a little inhaling. But also the therapy on the chest is so good. Now we always use these steam things from a tank, where I've been involved in wellness centers for a number of years where we actually have inpatients, treating them. But today you can buy this thermophore, you just plug it in and it has moist heat. And that's very effective. We usually use that on the chest. And then on the back we put just a common heating pad because you want to just heat up a bit. And do those in 5-minute cycles. So you can do that with children, maybe for 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and treat them as well. And that deep heat, moist heat, is very, very effective.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what else do you want to tell us while you're here on the bus?
Well, disease X is coming, whatever that's going to be. And so I think the other shoe may not have dropped yet. We just don't know. And so I would just encourage people, don't sit back. We may not understand a lot about what's going on, what comes to us, what kind of other kind of pandemic there might be. But early intervention is the key. We can't sit back and wait and watch. It can cost you your life.
And pray. Pray.
Yes, pray. Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do here.
Yeah.
All right, so disease X is coming, although disease X nobody knows what it is, but
Right.
they're developing a vaccine for the disease that they do not know what it is.
I know. It's amazing.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah,
It's evil, people, and so we fight back.
that's right.
And now, how can people find out more about your treatments? Because he's got a leaflet,
Yes.
pamphlet, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we developed this little pamphlet for our members, and you're welcome to go to our website. You can go to the Dunlap Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Go way slower.
Okay, yes, of course. Dunlap Seventh-day Adventist Church in Dunlap, Tennessee. And
It's got it written down here.
and you can go to our website, and on the home page scroll down and you will find important links, and it's the last of 4 links. Or you can email me. I'd be happy to correspond. charleshcleveland@gmail.com. I'll give you the link. charleshcleveland@gmail.com.
All right, well, that's kind of you to give out your email address.
Well, I'd like to help people. I'm a health educator. That's what we do.
Well, we really appreciate you giving your advice and what's worked for you and your church. And again, this man is not giving out medical advice any more than Children's Health Defences. It's just very interesting to hear about the old remedies of time that have worked and are still working today for many people.
Right.
So you don't have to rush to a doctor when you have these amazing.
Yeah, it's a blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing to be able to do that. It's something you can do in your home, and you can be right there, and the early intervention gets it over with, and you can go on with your life.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I got measles. Should we go there?
That's
and
back a ways.
And the doctor it was such a mild childhood illness, the doctor didn't even come to the house.
Yeah.
And it was just drink plenty of fluids, and if you're ever congested in any kind of one of these illnesses, it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In
Now,
sleep.
and people need to realize too that you don't want to wait to the last minute in trying to prepare for things. Let's take vitamin D, for example. Vitamin D, when you get sick, if you try to start vitamin D, it takes a few days for your vitamin D even to become effective. So it's very important that we pay attention to that now. I'll tell you one study. For instance, there was a study done of, I think it was 600 and some people, early coronavirus, and they found out that those that had taken, whose blood levels was about at least 40 nanograms per milliliter, if they were at that level, they almost never went to the hospital and they never died. So it seems to be a threshold. Most Americans are vitamin D deficient. We don't get enough vitamin D anyway. And so to me, the easiest thing, it's easy to talk about stuff, but you can get your own vitamin D levels. You can, order a kit and do it, or get your doctor to do it. But it'd be good to know what those levels are. I know in my case, and I'm a health educated, oriented type of person, I don't easily keep my vitamin D levels where I like them without some supplementation. And so the D3 with some K2 is a good combination to be absorbed on a regular basis. And the RDA for that is very, very low, but we really don't know of any toxicity problems in very high levels. We use it even up to 50,000 IUs. But I typically myself take about 5,000 units each day.
Wow.
And that's helped me to keep mine up there. But again, those with low vitamin D levels are the ones that went to the hospital and the ones that didn't make it. So we have lots of studies today now verifying that.
Well, if America's got low vitamin D, England's in big trouble because
That's right.
you guys see the sun, we see nothing.
I know, I realize that.
Listen,
Yes.
thank you so much for sitting there and talking to us and giving us your advice. People will come to your website if they're interested and learn much more. So
And thank you for what CHD is doing. We really appreciate it, and I think the Lord will bless you.